Hi, my name is Mick, and welcome to the Main Character of the Internet podcast, where I'm going to outline all of the absurd, insane, chaotic moments that become viral on the internet. And I feel that I am personally equipped to do this because I've been online since I was 11 years old, and I'm not saying that's a good thing. But I am uniquely positioned to do this because I have bore witness to the evolution of the internet from its dawn practically, or at least the evolution of social media. I really feel like the internet has been a really innovative place of connection and community, and all of these great revolutionary things have developed because the internet was invented. But it's also simultaneously the most absurd place in the entire planet. I would almost argue that humans shouldn't have this much unfiltered access to one another, and that some people just genuinely should not even just have access to the internet at all. But regardless, I do feel that it is my duty to preserve these moments and this rich internet history so that archaeologists of the future can look back and determine exactly what point humans were literally doomed forever. And so thus I bring to you my first oracle, the shrimp tail of Cinnamon Toast Crunch. And this is one of my favorite internet moments, internet viral main character moments, as I like to call them, because the time at which this story was at its height to its bottom low was probably 24 hours. And that's the beauty of the internet, is these things work so fast. And so this tale starts on Twitter, where on March 22nd, 2021, comedian Jensen Karp tweeted, at Cinnamon Toast Crunch, why are there shrimp tails in my cereal? In parentheses, this is not a bit. And so he's a comedian. That's why he had to clarify it wasn't a bit. But he finds shrimp tails where shrimp tails should not be. And you would think when you look at something like this, you're like, oh, yeah, that's weird. And, he's this verified Twitter user when being verified meant something on Twitter. So you would think oh, but it hardly seems newsworthy, right? That's hardly breaking news. I myself have found items that shouldn't be in my food before, and it's not going to make headlines, right? But where this story shifted was when Cinnamon Toast Crunch replied to this tweet, and they replied with this. After further investigation with our team that closely examined the image, it appears to be an accumulation of the cinnamon sugar that sometimes can occur when ingredients aren't thoroughly blended. We assure you that there's no possibility of cross-contamination with shrimp. So this is the catalyst, I think, where this went from a normal everyday tweet to holy shit, this is going mega viral, because people on the internet love when a normal layperson interacts with a big brand, because anyone who is tweeting from this brand account is kind of restricted because they're probably have to uphold some communication standards. The brand isn't going to let you just say whatever you want to this individual, this customer. So because they're consumer facing, and because the comedian in this example, he's not bound by anything. He can say whatever he wants. It just makes for an interesting dynamic that will always be kind of viral. And so exactly what happens, this starts going viral. People start kind of talking about it and being like, well, it's crazy. And it's crazy that on one picture alone, they're going to tell this man that this is not shrimp tails. It's Cinnamon Toast Crunch. They are gaslighting this man to think what he found, what he can see with his own two eyes, is not what he thinks it is. And again, that's where this story really starts to take off. So he then replies and says, okay, well, after further investigation with my eyes, these are cinnamon-coated shrimp tails, you weirdos. I wasn't all that mad until you now tried to gaslight me. So, like I said, this is where the story starts to take off, and everyone is tweeting about this. If you were on Twitter at this time, your whole timeline was just tweet after tweet after tweet, making fun of or joking about this. It's a fun story, and it's lighthearted and it's fun to poke at brands and make fun of brands because they're worth multi-millions, and you're not really like attacking an individual. It's like this like entity, so it feels really harmless. But yeah, it's a fun time. I will say, like, and you know this if you're on Twitter, that when these things happen, it's so fun to be online. It is so fun to just lightheartedly, and I emphasize lightheartedly, poke fun at these things because it's just a good time. Like, that's what the internet's about. It's fun. So then, carrying on with this journey, this comedian then goes through the rest of his Cinnamon Toast Crunch. He finds more shrimp tails. Also, mind you, shrimp is a shellfish, which is a really common allergy, like a deadly allergy that people have. So it actually is kind of a big deal that he found shrimp tails in his cereal. Like, in what world is there a factory in which Cinnamon Toast Crunch, the cereal, and shrimp, like seafood, is being manufactured and processed together? That's insane. And also, on a separate note, shows you just like how, as consumers, we are at the will of these multi-mega millionaire companies, because we have no idea what goes into like the processing and what the standards are. We have no idea. So just something to note, to be aware of. So he goes through the rest of the bag. He finds more shrimp tails. He finds a piece of string, and then he also finds these specific singular cereal bits that have these black little specks baked into the cereal. And so what users start to speculate is that these little black bits are actually rat feces. And the reason all of these things ended up in his cereal was because a rat was nesting in wherever this product was being stored before it was processed, and put all of these things in there, which I would argue like that is hard to avoid. Like, I wouldn't say that's all on the brand to like be responsible for every singular piece of food to make sure like these things happen. I don't know. But it's still like, I mean, rats cause the bubonic plague, so you should definitely not be eating their feces. So it's like, understandably, you should be concerned if you find this in your food. And he also has kids who also eat the cereal. So he's like, who also probably already ate it before he found this. Because I don't know if it was the first bowl that he found this on, which that's unfortunate. But so yeah, he's just kind of living in this viral moment, and people, you know, he's eating it up. He's loving it. He's almost feeding into it because he's adding all of this extra stuff, and people will tell him like, oh, go look in the other box, and he will do it, and he'll tell. So it's like he's feeding into it just as much. But he also does an interview. Like, this gets so big that like the New York Times and Washington Post do an interview with him about it. Like, those are legitimate news sources talking about this Twitter moment that happened. And so, yeah, so he's going back and forth. All of these memes and tweets are going around. Like, this is like at its height. So he then reaches out privately to Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and he says, there is still time to save this, guys. They are shrimp tails. To which the company replies, essentially saying, like, please send us the contaminated box of cereal and we will investigate further. To which he's already, like, they already tried to gaslight him once. He's like, not again. So he says, yes, but also I'm going to keep one of the two because your last response publicly was super weird. And since you'll be receiving a shrimp tail, I'll keep one so you don't continue to try to say it's sugar and make me look insane. It's turning into a like hostage negotiation at this point. Like, they are wagering shrimp tails like back and forth between this company. And so like this, like I said, this becomes a hyper fixation of the internet, as these things do, and why it's so interesting. Because if you really look at it, like, is it that interesting? Like, he found shrimp. Okay. Like, shit happens. Like, things don't go. Like, I don't know. Go sue the company and settle outside of court like a normal person. But it's the internet, so of course that's not what happens. But yeah, so the internet is still going crazy over this. Like, he's at the peak of this story. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he was talking to Hollywood about selling the movie rights to this experience. Like, that's how much he is feeding and fueling this social media fire. I mean, it was hilarious. But then, and as it always does in this age, it's ruined. It is completely ruined because 2 women come out and say that he has abused them. So the 2 tweets, and they were both from verified accounts too, they have the blue checkmark account. So like, it's serious. These are serious allegations. The one woman says, what you may not know about the man behind the viral posts. What? Like he's a manipulative, gaslighting, narcissistic ex-boyfriend who once told me he was surprised I hadn't killed myself because my life was so worthless? It's not funny, but it's just like, how do we go from, haha, funny little cinnamon toast crunch like story to that? And that's like what I mean by these insane moments are just so absurd on the internet because this all happens in 24 hours. Like he went from the top of the internet world to you're getting accused of severe, serious abuse allegations. And then the second tweet from, again, another verified account. Ha ha ha, my quickly deleted subtweet yesterday said, oh no, I can't follow the latest viral saga because I was blocked in 2014 because I was not gracious enough after a surprise threesome. But not before I was told to be careful or I would never work in this town again. Followed up by the amount of women who DM'd me with stories today, let alone the ones I have known about for years and talked to about our shared experiences. Oh, Lord. And like I said, we were having a good time. Like, this was fun. This was a fun time to be on the internet. And then this dude ruined it by being an asshole. And it's like, why does that always happen? Why can't we ever have fun here? Why is everyone abusing people? Every man is abusing a woman, essentially. That's what it feels like when you experience these things. And if you've been on the internet long enough, you experience it a lot. So basically, not only did we have to like experience this rapid rise and rapid fall of this story, we also never learned if it was really shrimp, because right before that it all came crashing down, he was about to send the samples, like the sample that he kept, to some crustacean researcher who was going to DNA test the shrimp samples, or what the shrimp tail, possible alleged shrimp tail samples, to like scientifically confirm that they were in fact shrimp and he was not crazy, and that the cinnamon toast crunch people are gaslighting him into saying it's not shrimp. And so we were like, that was like our O.J. Simpson case. That would have been my generation's O.J. Simpson case. We would have followed that like nothing else. And we were robbed of that because this guy abused women and he deleted his Twitter, because that's what you do when you're outed as a serial abuser of women. You delete your fucking Twitter. So there really are no winners in this story except maybe Cinnamon Toast Crunch, because that story was totally killed. Like, their PR nightmare, they were the only people happy that like these women got abused, because that whole story died. That whole thing died. It turned into, oh my gosh, this dude's a serial abuser, to, oh my gosh, he deleted his account, to whatever happened? Like, whatever happened with that? Like, literally, people still to this day are like, whatever happened with that? And so this actually has a name, like this phenomenon of like this rise and fall. It's called milkshake duck, and it's basically a word to describe when a mild-mannered commoner unexpectedly gains attention and briefly captures the heart of the nation, or at minimum, the bored attention of Twitter and the nation's meme makers, only for a horrifying revelation about them surfaces before their 15 minutes of internet fame have elapsed. And that's exactly what happened. Thank you so much for listening. Tune in next week for another main character moment.